take any advantages over me.
I'm ready. This is a dream fight that I've been waiting for all my life.
Everybody want to beat the world champion. But look, normally when they talk shit, what we do, we lay them out.
I am all about the knockout, and I have been perfecting it ever since my last fight.
He's gonna be strong, he's gonna be fast. I'm in my prime. I'm stronger than ever.
My power, it's gonna be the key for me.
I'll show you what I do with the power, trust me.
I feel like I deserve this opportunity, and I'm striving to be better than ever.
Y'all get ready to tune in. It's going down, all the way down.
And this time, it's a Lions-only affair. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Thomas. On the other side of the screen, that is Brian Campbell. And this is the weigh-in, the official weigh-in stream for Charlo versus Montiel. All right, Brian Campbell, we have a triple header for the fans on Saturday night, Juneteenth, in Houston, Texas. Jermall Charlo, your existing WBC middleweight champion, will take on the somewhat unknown but power-punching Juan Macías Montiel. Let's start here, BC, if we can. What is the defining storyline of this contest?
Thanks, Luke. We, of course, are two halves of the Morning Combat duo here, and we broke this fight card down today, Luke, and you look at this, it's the champion, Jermall Charlo, unbeaten, coming off of the biggest test of his career, headlining a pay-per-view last year against Sergey Derevyanchenko. He proved so much to us in that fight and getting the unanimous decision win, and finally getting that elite foe at 160, right? He was decorated champion at 154, fought all the big names, moved up in weight. So where is he going now? He wants all the smoke, Luke, to share another Showtime digital tagline there. Sometimes there's the issue in getting those guys in the ring. Who's hungry and stepped up? Well, it's Juan Macías Montiel, a big puncher. So the storyline coming in is this is Jermall Charlo's return home to Houston, the home of Lions only. It's a Juneteenth celebration. It all goes down, of course, Saturday night, Showtime, 9 p.m. Eastern with the triple header. But it's a close-up opportunity against a dangerous puncher for Jermall Charlo, where if he can get a victory here, and that's no guarantee, giving the shifty style, the big-time power that Montiel brings to the table, can this be the fight that lifts him now that he's got the critical fight under his belt at 160 pounds to the much bigger names, the other champions specifically at middleweight? We're talking about Gennady Golovkin. We're talking about Demetrius Andrade, the guys with the other belts. We know Jermall Charlo wants to unify. He wants to do big things here at middleweight before the eventual move up to 168. He's got to pass a very dangerous test first, Luke, in Houston on Saturday night.
Let's talk about first the champion here, Charlo. The one you've kind of been indicating is this is really all centered on him. He is, of course, the premier attraction here. But something kind of interesting, BC, you mentioned this was in Houston. Of course, we did as well at the top of the intro here for the stream. That's where, of course, Jermall Charlo is from. Who has more pressure in your mind, Brian Campbell? Because if you actually watch the Showtime programming, some of the all-access stuff, Montiel is like, listen, I'm secluded. I'm away from, I'm with my father and my grandfather and everybody else, but I'm not really around a ton of other hanger-oners, family members, friends, girlfriends, whoever, wives, whatever. I'm really just focused on the craft, whereas someone like Charlo in the hometown, and we know sometimes the hometown can lift you, sometimes it can be a bit of an anchor. Do you agree with the idea? Plus, if you're the sort of the premier attraction and the champion, it's a lot of weight on the shoulder of Charlo relative to Montiel.
There's no question about it. We tend to look at these homecoming opportunities sometimes falsely as, oh, that's an easy out for them. They're going to be back in their hometown. They're going to have the crowd support in their favor. Yet as you tease there, you talk to so many fighters, whether we're talking about boxing, mixed martial arts across the board, the pressure increases when everyone is there to see you, first of all. But when they're all over you for tickets, they're all over you for reunions to see you. You're the attraction. You're the one driving the people into the building. And I think for Charlo, you add in that he's facing a dangerous puncher with nothing to lose. You know the big business ahead that Charlo wants to get himself involved in. I just teased that. The unification fights, the eventual sort of career-defining fights, the Canelo Alvarez's, those type of fights that I'm talking about. You need to survive in advance to get there. So you look at Juan Macías Montiel, just 27 years old, coming off such a close-up himself in the kind of knockout victory over a very respected name in James Kirkland, where it's sort of like, okay, if I didn't know him, now I know him now. Now I take notice. Yes, Montiel's been in there with some elite competition in the past. Guys like Hugo Centeno Jr., guys like Jaime Munguia. Some he's won, some he's lost. But he's got 22 victories, all 22 by knockout. And when he went in there during the quarantine against James Kirkland, who was a veteran, yes, a lot of miles on the odometer, but a guy who had taken a lot of time off and was hungry to come back. And Luke, you saw that. Montiel got him out of there early, violently, and with ease, with a variety of short, awkward, powerful hooks. You have to believe the underdog's coming in there to this Showtime, close-up himself in such a high, let's say probably the highest profile bout of his career. It's not just a title fight, it's a chance to make his name on an even higher level. When you're playing with house money at that point and you're the puncher in the matchup, you have literally nothing to lose.
Let's talk about Montiel here for just a second as well before we go live to the actual weigh-ins in Houston, Texas here, BC. Montiel, true or false? The two best things he has going for him, maybe in any fight, but certainly in this one, you kind of alluded to it before. One, he has a somewhat kind of an awkward style, and two, all 22 of his wins, they come by way of KO. He is legitimately heavy-handed. That's got to be, of course, there's got to be tactical things he has to do in order to get the win. But if you're looking at the two real big strengths in this matchup for Montiel, true or false, those are the first two you would point to.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, the power is his calling card, but it's not, look, is he the underdog in this matchup? For sure. But this isn't just, he's a big puncher. Can he catch up with Charlo? If he doesn't, this is going to be a long night at the office. This is a guy who's shifty and awkward and just a little bit different. He switches stances often. He doesn't need to be squared down in the typical, orthodox stance to get off his best shots. He's sort of at his best in a freewheeling, freestyle manner in which he's very comfortable in the pocket, in the strike zone. Does that leave him open to danger for the type of shots that Jermall Charlo finishes guys with? You better believe that. But that's the Mexican fighter's preferred style, preferred place. He wants to be right in there in the heat because that's where he can land those awkward counter shots, those half hooks, half uppercuts, those type of punches. He wants to get this into a fight, into a brawl. This isn't going to be so much about him following Charlo around, cocking that right hand in, can he land that? You know he's going to get in there and mix it up. It's, can he get the upper hand in doing that? And can he lure Charlo into the type of fight that maybe he doesn't want to be in, Luke? We know Charlo's got some big power, but you've broken down some film yourself on our episode of Morning Combat this week. His setups are as technical as certainly anyone at the middleweight division, but really anyone in the game. This is a studied, tried and true boxer puncher.
And at 160 pounds, he's a true middleweight, no doubt about it. He fills out into that weight class completely. BC, in terms of Jermall Charlo's best weapons, as you indicated, I've sort of gone through the tape a little bit, but I'd like to hear from you. He's athletic, he's powerful, he's quick. Isn't it fair to say, though, that whatever criticisms one might have of Jermall Charlo, because no fighter is perfect, he's a lot smarter, I think, than he gets credit for.
Yeah. I mean, he's a much better. He has the IQ of a top 10 pound-for-pound ranked boxer in this game. And I think when you look at the lists across the board, he tends to show up in that top 10 list or just on the outside looking in. Maybe the only thing, like I mentioned, that had held him back was since moving up to middleweight. He had trouble luring those big names. But when you talk about the balance between boxer-puncher, Jermall Charlo has that balance evenly, really as good as anyone in the elite level in boxing today. And it's his big jab, certainly, that can be his calling card. He's a knockout puncher, yes. He's an orthodox fighter with an incredible right cross. You've broken down at length, like we mentioned, about his ability to land uppercuts and counter and punch with others and stay in the pocket. But it's that big jab that controls distance. He has a very smart IQ. He mixes that with quick feet to really control the terms of most of his biggest fights. And then when it comes to punching with his opponents and letting go the combinations, that's certainly where he is the most dangerous. But if you stay on the outside of him and you don't get inside that big jab, he's more than willing and certainly capable to outbox you and not need to go into that type of highlight reel finish that we've seen him put across the board many times, specifically, of course, at 154. We remember his knockout of Julian Williams. You remember the fights against Austin Trout, winning the title against K9 Bundridge. This is a guy with big-time power, but it's not reckless power. It's very studied and set up and technical, and you know how strong the reputation, Luke, is of the great Houston trainer Ronnie Shields, who has worked with so many champions through the years. That relationship is a great one, and those two together have helped Jermall evolve at this point, like I mentioned, to one of the pound-for-pound best.
But and also it could be interesting to see what role his brother plays. You know, they're as tight as can be, but like brothers, I've got one. I understand it. Sometimes you butt heads as well. I'll be curious to see what kind of, he'll be there, I'm sure, and then in the front row probably or nearby. But I'll also be kind of curious to see what kind of synergy, what kind of energy that gives off. One more question about the Charlo situation he heads into this particular contest tomorrow. What would you say was your personal biggest takeaway from Charlo's win over Derevyanchenko? Not so much I'm asking, could he beat an elite guy? I mean, from the boxing perspective, what did you see in that contest?
Well, look, what makes a fighter truly great, we've seen this time again, is, your plan A might be fantastic, but can you make adjustments? Can you make those championship mid-fight adjustments? Let's give Sergey Derevyanchenko credit. A guy who's unfortunately been, the bridesmaid in this middleweight division, yet has pushed, so many top fighters to the absolute limit, whether we're talking about Danny Jacobs or we're talking about Gennady Golovkin, who you could argue Derevyanchenko had done enough at Madison Square Garden to take that middleweight title just a couple years back from Triple G in their fight of the year contender in their war. Derevyanchenko made some mid-fight adjustments to be able to get inside on Charlo, get underneath that big jab like we talked about. He went to the body, and then we were really able to see, Luke, for the first time specifically at middleweight, what Charlo could do when he had to adjust. And the adjustments he made, the ability to regain control of that distance, to not need to panic, to not see his output go down. Charlo's command as a boxer was what I took away as most impressive from that victory over Derevyanchenko. I started ranking him in the top 10 pound for pound after that because that was the performance he needed. And the showcase that was in him just had not been pulled out of him yet at the middleweight division. That's what I was most impressed with. And Luke, you mentioned quickly the connection to his brother Jermall Charlo, who of course is a unified champion at 154 pounds, will be back to try to become a undisputed champion July 17th on Showtime when he takes on Brian Castano in their title bout. Are you like me, where you love that while Jermell and Jermall, Lions Only, support each other like no other, would go to bat for each other like no other, are in the front row or sometimes even in the corner of their brother like no other, they don't hide from the back that they're kind of competing against each other. That was the big theme coming into the pay-per-view last September, where it's like we're going to kind of flip a coin or figure out who's going to be the headliner. But not only do we have two headliners in this unique pay-per-view, I am going out of my way to try to show everyone that I'm the Charlo of record in this discussion. I love that sort of attitude and energy, that it's like it's love across the way, brother. But that doesn't mean I'm not trying to be the best in this entire family or this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like to have a twin, but my brother is less than 2 years older than me, so it's not a far departure. And your brother is, at many ways, your best friend, your biggest rival. Not so much your hated rival necessarily, although sometimes passions can go that way. But even in the lead up to this, we saw Jermall Charlo saying, "But when he shines, I shine. Why wouldn't I want to see that?" Okay, I believe we are ready to go to the official weigh-ins right now in Houston, Texas. Let's throw it to the classy Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you, and we welcome you as Premier Boxing Champions presents the official weigh-in for our big night of action taking place right here in Houston tomorrow night at the Toyota Center. And it's all brought to you by Lions Only Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Showtime. Well, we're going to bring out our fighters and weigh in the opening attraction tomorrow night on Showtime. And this bout is presented in association with Mayweather Promotions. It's 10 rounds of action in a super bantamweight showdown. Now let's bring our fighters out to the stage. First, from Nogales, Sonora, Mexico. His record 25 wins, 1 loss, with 13 wins coming by way of knockout. Please welcome to the stage the southpaw contender, Aaron Alameda. First he'll disrobe. And now we bring out his opponent from Las Vegas, Nevada. He is now fighting out of Las Vegas by way of Albuquerque, New Mexico. His record, 20 wins, 1 loss, 9 wins, coming by way of knockout. The former WBO junior featherweight champion of the world, El Chinito, Angelo Leo. All right, let's bring our fighters to the scale at this time. Weight limit is 122 pounds of this super bantamweight attraction. First, only one setback. It is 26 professional bouts. The WBC number 10 ranked super bantamweight, Aron Alameda. Aron Alameda steps on the scale weighing 123.8 pounds. That's a little bit over the 122 limit. He's going to have 2 hours to come back and make that 122-pound weight limit. Now let's bring our opponent up to the scale at this time. Also only 1 loss. This in his 21 professional bouts. The WBO number 6 ranked contender and the former WBO junior featherweight champion of the world, El Chinito, Angelo Leo. 122 pounds, right on the nose for Angelo Leo, 122 pounds.
There you have it for the first. Remember, it is a triple header for Showtime Championship Boxing, kicking off at 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West tomorrow, Saturday, June 19th. Here we have the fight, Aron Alameda, and Angelo Leo. BC, Alameda, who, by the way, surprised us to I would say, a pretty strong degree. Certainly when he was on the Charlo doubleheader against Luis Neri.
And there they are, ladies and gentlemen. It opens up our
Yeah, certainly he's going to need that next hour to try to cut down and get under this 122-pound limit for this fight to continue here without any kind of penalty. But, Luke, we talk about how hot this division is. 122, super bantamweight, junior featherweight, whatever you want to call it. Angelo Leo, the former champion who won that vacant belt with the decision over Tremaine Williams. Remember, Stephen Fulton Jr., Cool Boy Steph had to withdraw from that fight last minute. Well, they ran that back. That was an excellent 12-round title fight in which, unfortunately, Fulton took the title from Leo, but Leo looking to bounce back from that in a big way, and you mentioned it.
Let's go back to
Bring
Jimmy
it back
Lennon
to Jimmy
Jr.
Lennon.
First, we welcome our fighters to the stage at this time. First, from Mexico City, his record 27 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, with 19 wins coming by way of knockout. Please welcome the action-packed former WBC super featherweight champion of the world, Francisco El Bandito Vargas. And his opponent up to the stage at this time, also joining us from his home in Mexico City. His record, 21 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw, with 15 wins coming by way of knockout. Ranked number 3 in the world by the WBA, number 2 in the world by the IBF, introducing Isaac Pitbull Cruz. It looks like our fighters are ready to step onto the scale. This lightweight attraction scheduled 10 rounds of boxing. The limit, 135 pounds. Onto the scale at this time, ranked the WBC number 7 contender, the former WBC super featherweight champion of the world, Francisco El Bandito Vargas. 134 pounds for Francisco Vargas, 134. And his opponent ready to step onto the scale with 15 knockouts. It is 21 wins. He's the relentless lightweight top contender, introducing Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Already 133 pounds for Isaac Pitbull Cruz, 133.
I'll tell you what, BC. Here you have it. Cruz and Vargas making weight for the co-main event for tomorrow's Showtime Championship boxing card. Cruz doesn't necessarily scream, the most powerful puncher. If you just look at the guy, obviously he's an athlete, he's in shape. But BC, you know as well as I do, when it's time to go, he can thump.
The Pitbull is as exciting as it gets in these smaller weight classes. This is lightweight 135. He is a rising contender, a 17-fight unbeaten streak, Luke. Big-time power, but a crossroads opportunity here. We know El Bandito Francisco Vargas, 36 years old, though, looks to be in phenomenal shape, made the lightweight limit easy, as you can see right there. May have had the biggest fights of his career at 130 in the past. What does he have left? It's going to be tough in there against a big puncher like Cruz. But, Luke, you've seen Bandito in the past author so many fight of the year contenders or award winners, whether it's against Kushi Maora or Lando Salido. This guy goes to war. We're going to find out what Isaac Cruz is made of just as much as we're going to find out what Vargas has left.
No doubt about it. All right, let's go back to Jimmy Lennon Jr. for the main event weigh-in.
For the main event of the evening, Premier Boxing Champions presents, brought to you by Lions Only Promotions, TGB Promotions, and Showtime in association with Samson Boxing. 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Middleweight Championship of the World. First, let's bring our fighters to the stage. We introduce the challenger. He'll be making his first attempt at a world title from Los Mochis, Sinaloa, Mexico. He has 22 knockouts in all 22 of his wins. The hard-hitting challenger, Juan Macías Montiel. And now we invite to the stage the defending world champion, fighting out of and representing his home of Houston, Texas. He's the two-division world champion, the undefeated defending WBC middleweight champion of the world, the future of boxing, Jermall Charlo. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to bring our fighters onto the scale at this time. Once again, it's the WBC Middleweight Championship of the World. The weight limit is 160 pounds. First, we present the challenger making his Showtime debut. The knockout artist ranked the WBC #4 world contender, Juan Macías Montiel. 159.5 pounds, 159.5 pounds for the challenger, Juan Macías Montiel. And now the defending champion is ready to step onto the scale with 22 knockouts in his 31 victories. He's the recent recipient of the WBC Freedom Belt, the undefeated reigning WBC middleweight champion of the world, the future of boxing, Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo steps onto the scale at 160.4 pounds, slightly over the limit. He'll have 2 hours in order to come back and lose that 0.4 of a pound to make 160 and successfully defend his title tomorrow night in the ring.
Well, BC, 2 takeaways. One, good news. If you're a Jermall Charlo fan, you must be heartened by hearing the pop from the crowd when he was announced and certainly walked on the stage. The hometown guy is well received there. That's the good news. I wouldn't call it terrible news, but it's not great news either. He missed weight. Now, it was only 0.4 over. For folks who don't know, if you're fighting for a championship belt, they don't give you any extra allowance. You got to hit it or be right under it. He'll have 2 extra hours to do it. I don't think he's going to lose his title on the scales, BC, but he did come in about a half pound over.
Yeah, it's certainly not disastrous, troubling for, let's say, the immediate future, meaning the next 2 hours. I think the great news for Jermall Charlo, doesn't have a history of weight issues and his body did not look completely sucked out where you're going to wonder where that 0.4 of a pound is going to come from. Maybe it was a miscalculation heading into here. Either way, he's going to have that 2-hour window to get it done. He didn't seem too dejected, and as they come together for the face-off here, defending champion, unbeaten, but a big-time puncher across from him, Luke.
I got to say, I thought Montiel would be a little bit smaller in terms of the frame to Charlo. And, of course, I think Charlo is the bigger of the two, but it's not as pronounced a difference as maybe I had imagined. But to your point, BC, we were talking about like the stakes of this fight, and here you can see I think they made a special Juneteenth freedom belt. It seems mostly decorative for the record, but I gotta say, listen, he's got to make the weight first, which I'm sure he'll make, and then he has to win this contest. But if he is, you know, I'm not gonna say struggling to make 160, but it's not automatic. You might be right that 168 at some point in the near future, I don't think that's that crazy.
It really isn't. And do we think that physically he can swim in that pool? I believe he does. I look at the size he has as a big middleweight, a big puncher. Certainly has the speed and boxing ability there as they shake hands and pose for the photographers. Full crowd here in Houston supporting Charlo, of course. But the bigger money, the bigger career-defining fights are at 168 for the moment. And taking stock of Charlo's quotes heading into fight week is, look, he'd like to unify belts first at middleweight before moving up. Would like to take care of the business. Sometimes it's tough. You have the other champions like Demetrius Andrade, like Gennady Golovkin, like a Jaime Munguia, who are unfortunately on the other side of the political and network tracks at the moment. It's not that fights are impossible to be made. It's just sometimes, you know, are they big enough to be made? Can they be made? Are the promoters, network people willing to do it? You know, Jermall Charlo is going to try his best if he can get a victory here on Saturday night to try to attract those fights. But you look across the landscape at 168 pounds, it's not just Canelo Alvarez, the pound-for-pound king, the biggest star in this sport, who in his own way is a promotional free agent from time to time and can kind of call his own shots. You've got Caleb Plant, who has a belt right now and is trying to get Canelo Alvarez. You've got David Benavidez with that Mexican-American style and the big body and the punches and bunches. There are some very big fights to make. A lot of these 168-pound fighters are very friendly in the PBC sort of, you know, banner and frame politically. You know, Jermall Charlo is at a point at age 31, Luke. He's already done big things at 154. He's now got a title and 3 full title defenses after 2 with the interim title at 160. He's going to want to now find out how great he can be and not wait around. He took this fight because it was what was available to him. It's certainly a stiff challenge, but he's going to want to go big moving forward and really capitalize on the full potential of his stardom.
No doubt about it. Certainly, if he is the future of boxing, the future is now in the sense that he's got some present challenges still at 160 pounds. But I think keeping your sights set at 168 is going to be fortuitous for him. And honestly, some of the biggest fights that maybe could be made in boxing, or at least certainly at 168, would be involving him moving up and creating some dynamism by doing that. BC, let's reset real quickly one more time. Tomorrow, Showtime Championship Boxing, triple header, your main event, as you just saw, Jermall Charlo defending his WBC middleweight title against Juan Macías Montiel. We also have Isaac Cruz taking on Francisco Vargas, and Angelo Leo taking on Aaron Alameda. I do want to bring up something else here, BC, before we wrap up here on the broadcast. Of course, you can't talk about one Charlo brother without talking about the other, and I mean, that must be fatiguing for them, but it is a reality. Certainly this weekend, all eyes are on Jermall Charlo, but Jermall Charlo, not too far away in July, he takes on Brian Castaño. What can we expect in that junior middleweight contest?
Just first and foremost, from a style matchup, you love it because Castaño, the Argentine, a champion himself at 154 pounds, he comes after it. We saw him fight to an all-action, exciting draw against Erislandy Lara at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn on Showtime a couple years back. He's a hungry champion. He went in there and beat Brazil's Patrick Teixeira for the belt. And you're looking at a fun fight given that Jermall Charlo can do everything. He can box, he can punch. The stakes, though, are much bigger than just that in this case. Jermall Charlo coming in with 3 of 4 recognized titles at super welterweight, junior middleweight, whatever you want to call it, 154 pounds. Castaño has that 4th title. We are seeing of late, Luke, which we don't often see in boxing, more opportunities to become an undisputed champion in some of these power weight classes. 154 has no shortage of big-time talent and names across the board. The Laras, the Jarrett Swift-Hurds, J. Rock Williams, all former champions in their own right. And that's, by the way, just naming a few. Jermall Charlo, fresh off that knockout win in the pay-per-view last fall against unified champion Jason Rosario, now has the same chance that Brian Castano does here in this fight, July 17th in San Antonio, to become the best in show, the best in class, and do something historically that very rarely happens and has never been done before at 154 pounds. That's to be one face, one name, one champion, and in this case, all 4 recognized belts, the undisputed title. Luke, look, we know boxing. We love boxing. There's a lot of titles in boxing. Sometimes they mean a whole heck of a lot. Sometimes they're just another belt. You get all 4 together and 2 of the best fighters in one of the premier weight classes in this game. You're going to get excited July 17th on Showtime.
Yeah, there's just no denying. You put that kind of resume together, and again, it won't make you the perfect fighter, but it should silence a fair amount of the critics if you can cross that threshold. Still, that work is to be done, as you indicated. That'll be, of course, in San Antonio, Texas, at the AT&T Center, July 17th. So another Charlo brother staying in Texas, although not like tomorrow, where they're going to be in Houston. All right, BC, let's go through this main card one more time, and I want to hit on just the most important thing to think about for each of them. When the card starts tomorrow, the first bout will be a junior featherweight contest. Angelo Leo taking on Aaron Alameda. As we indicated, Alameda just missed weight, but he was so surprising. We all really thought in that Charlo doubleheader in September that Luis Nery was going to run through him. Wasn't to be. It didn't happen. Now, Luis Nery did win that contest. Alameda gave him everything he could handle.
You love this fight because they're both elite fighters coming off elite losses in title opportunities. Alameda lost to Nery, but to your point, boxed very well. He's got long arms. He's difficult to look great against. That was his biggest opportunity. He put off a great showing for himself. And, of course, Angelo Leo, the former champion, took the vacant title from Tremaine Williams, lost a very tough 12-round bout against Stephen Fulton Jr. These guys aren't coming back in soft, get-well fights. They're coming back to remind us who they are and prove once again that as these champions start to face each other, and come on, we can't wait for Fulton, Brandon Figueroa, which is going to be September 11th on Showtime. We love the fact that the names at 122 are getting together. This is a big opportunity here for the winner, as long as Alameda can make weight in this 2-hour window and get back under that 122 limit to really remind us who they are. Like I mentioned, Angelo Leo from New Mexico, fights out of Las Vegas, a Mayweather Promotions, Mayweather Gym guy. He's tough as nails. He's got an aggressive style. He goes to the body at will. This should be that interesting contrast between the boxer Alameda and the aggressive puncher in Leo.
At lightweight, the co-main event, Isaac Cruz taking on Francisco Vargas. As we know, Vargas battle-tested. Isaac Cruz heavy-handed. This one should be all action.
Yeah, Cruz comes from Mexico, 23 years old. We're trying to figure out here at lightweight where, do I need to remind you, Luke, that we have no shortage of young, rising superstars in this sport at lightweight or in and around it when we're talking about Gervonta Davis, who headlines a pay-per-view next week, the Ryan Garcias, the Devin Haney's, the Teofimo Lopez Jr.'s. Is Isaac Cruz of this ilk? Well, we're getting closer to finding out. 17-fight unbeaten streak going in there against Francisco Vargas. Yes, he's 36, Luke. Yes, this is crossroads fight. Maybe one guy going up, maybe one guy going in the other direction. But Luke, Bandito will bring it. How much does he have left? You have to believe Cruz is going to make him find it out, and the same is true on the reverse. This one probably won't go the distance. It's going to be fun to see as they trade punches.
And then last and certainly not least, your main event, Jermall Charlo, the WBC middleweight champion, taking on Juan Macías Montiel. BC, I don't know if you want to give a prediction, but here's what I'll say this fight hinges on. If I'm Jermall Charlo, I'm going to say that again, you can make any criticism of any fighter. None of them are perfect. But I think Jermall Charlo is much more of a complete fighter than most folks realize. He's got a power jab. I really think that that's going to be the decider. Yes, we know, BC, that he's got incredible counters like we saw against Hogan, like we saw against J-Rock. But against a guy like Macías Montiel, who might be a little bit wily, he's going to have to be a little bit more disciplined at first. But the good news is when you're athletic and powerful and smart in the ways that Charlo is, that's a doable task.
Yeah, we said Montiel might be playing with a little bit of house money here, coming in as the underdog, but he's the big puncher. I know he's in Charlo's backyard of Houston. Montiel's from Mexico. This is Texas. This is also almost like a home game with the support he will also likely receive. Can he go in there and be different? He is a different type of power puncher. Switches stances, does things that are just non-traditional. I think he's going to have success early in that regard and lure Charlo into the kind of firefight that, yes, could prove to be Montiel's undoing if Jermall Charlo can land the big one. But I think that's his best chance to get Jermall Charlo off of that script. We saw the great adjustments from Jermall against Sergey Derevyanchenko in his last fight. Can Montiel land the big one early, make him have to work, meaning Charlo, in a way he didn't think coming in? Because we know the plans that Charlo wants for the future can't get there until he gets through Montiel first.
That is Brian Campbell. I am Luke Thomas. We are the hosts of Morning Combat. You can check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We are done here. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Don't forget, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West, tomorrow on Showtime, Championship Boxing returns to the great state of Texas. For everyone involved in the production here, we thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the fights.
It's going to be a fight. I come to put on a good show in front of my city, in front of Houston. I'd be damned if I let Montiel take any advantages over me.
I'm ready. This is a dream fight that I've been waiting for all my life.
Everybody want to beat the world champion. But look, normally when they talk shit, what we do, we lay them out.
I am all about the knockout, and I have been perfecting it ever since my last fight.
He's gonna be strong, he's gonna be fast. I'm in my prime. I'm stronger than ever.
My power, it's gonna be the key for me.
I'll show you what I do with the power, trust me.
I feel like I deserve this opportunity, and I'm striving to be better than ever.
Y'all get ready to tune in. It's going down, all the way down.